All right, so we got 202. So I think we got a pretty decent turnout. I mean, we got about a little under 20 people online. It looks like about 10 or so people, plus the project team here in the room. So I want to thank everybody so much for coming out to join us for this kickoff meeting for the Will County Alternative Fuels Readiness Plan. This meeting is for anybody that works in the county, lives in the county, passes through the county. We'll be talking about what the plan is going to be doing, what we're doing here today. And if you want to go to the next slide, Caitlin, we can look at our agenda. So we'll start with just some welcomes, just a little bit of getting to know each other, with introductions. Then we'll provide an overview of the project, the Alternative Fuel Readiness Plan, or the AFRP for short. Then we'll get into sort of where are we now and where are we going. So what is the current state of alternative fuels in Will County and what are we going to be looking at as we go through this plan? And then we want to make sure to invite you to stay involved and give you an idea about what's going to be coming up as we develop the plan. So to kick us off, I'm going to turn it over to the County Executive, Jennifer Bertino-Tarrant, if she wants to say hello.
Well, good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for being here, whether virtually or in person. I appreciate you taking time to join us. We know how important this topic is. I first want to give a shout out to Elaine Bottomley, because we know with any project or funding source, you have to have someone willing to take the lead. Our time is limited, and when you have someone with a passion for the topic, it's always very helpful. So thank you to Elaine, who started this initiative and has run with it. But we know here in Will County that, we are beginning a new course here. From what I understand, we're the first countywide who is planned to be discussed in Illinois. We thank the state of Illinois because it was funded almost entirely by them. But our goal is to ensure that our communities are prepared for the increased demand of alternative fuel vehicles. This project we are starting will serve as a roadmap for local governments and businesses as they plan for meeting this demand. For such a large county, it's important that we coordinate with each other as charging infrastructure is installed to best meet the needs of residents, visitors, businesses, and customers. We believe Will County is a leader in green energy. We've seen a major increase in green industries and jobs coming to the county, and this plan will help elevate us to be a statewide leader in green transportation. This is only possible with your involvement and engagement. We want your open and honest input throughout the process. And again, we thank you for your time and commitment to this topic. Thank you for being here.
All right, thank you so much, Jennifer. So let's go ahead and introduce the project team. Elaine, do you want to get us started?
Yeah, absolutely. So Jennifer alluded to Elaine Bottomley. That is me, one of the two Elaines that you guys are fortunate enough to get to do with this project. Not a common name, I promise you. I am the point of contact from the county perspective, helping us kind of go through this planning process. So we have all these great experts in the room, but you have any county questions regarding this or anything else, I'm always happy to be a point of contact, listen to hear what's going on, and try to make sure we're doing positive things for all of our residents. So with that, I'm going to hand it off to Elaine.
How often do you get to say that, Elaine?
Never.
So yeah, thank you everyone for being here in the room and virtually. I'm Elaine McKenzie. I'm a principal with Cambridge Systematics. We are very excited to partner with Will County on this project. We work nationally on transportation issues, including advanced technology and implementation issues. We're joined by RM Chin, an outstanding engineering and public engagement firm based in Chicago, as well as Argonne National Labs, who is doing some of the cutting edge research in terms of what does this alternative vehicle feature mean? What do the numbers mean for everybody? So I'll just say very quickly, this is coming for everybody. We're all going to have to deal with a new future, and it's really exciting to see a county like Will be on top of this and be planning to get the most benefit and bring the most benefit to your residents and your businesses. So with that, I'll turn it over to our project manager, Adrienne Heller, who, just say quickly, is one of our national experts in electrification and similar issues. Unfortunately, she can't be here today, but we're very glad that you're still able to lead the charge, Adrienne, virtually.
Thanks so much, Elaine. Yeah, I was planning to be there in person, but COVID had other plans for me. So thank you for zooming me in, as it were. My name is Adrienne Heller. I'm a senior associate with Cambridge Systematics. And I've been working in planning for about 10 years, and I've been with Cambridge Systematics for about the last 3. These days, most of my work focuses on electrification and equity, including a few national electric vehicle infrastructure plans, and very recently a 10-year plan for a new transportation electrification program in Colorado. And I am the consultant project manager for this project. And I will turn it over to Dan.
Thanks, Adrienne. My name is Dan Forbush. I am the deputy project manager for this project. I am based out of Chicago. I have a background in freight planning as well as transportation system resilience, and I'm kind of the data person. So I also have a background in sort of things like data analytics and analysis. And like I said, I'm serving as the deputy project manager. And with that, I'll turn it over to Caitlin.
Yeah, thank you so much. I'm Caitlin Bettisworth with our Chittenden Association. As Lane mentioned, we are supporting the team on the public involvement and stakeholder engagement portion. Our firm specializes in complex engagement and projects, equity, innovation, and things to that. So I will pass it back to Dan to just dive right in and get us started.
Yeah. So with that, we can sort of get the presentation started. Like I said, we're going to start with just talking about this program overview. So to get our feet wet a little bit more, just a couple of key definitions when it comes to, in particular, electric vehicles. So there's a couple of different kinds of electric vehicles that are common out there now. There's battery electric vehicles, those are vehicles that run entirely on electricity. That's what you think of when you think of like something like a Tesla that you see plugged into people's garages. There's also plug-in hybrid vehicles. I saw some people online or as well that have experience with these. Those are vehicles that have both an internal combustion engine and a battery that tends to provide some electricity for shorter trips. I know that there's the Subaru Crosstrek. It's just one example of a vehicle like that. There's a number of models that are out here these days. And then we also have, hybrid electric vehicles, and that's what you think of like the Prius back in the early, like the mid 2000s. That's where a vehicle that is powered by a battery, it provides assistance to an internal combustion engine. And one final key term to just go over is what we call electric vehicle service infrastructure. That's the kind of umbrella term that we use for all of the charging infrastructure that is related to charging electric vehicles. So that includes both, the chargers that you might see at the grocery store or out at rest stops, but also, the wiring and things that goes into that. But this is just one type of alternative fuel. If you want to go to the next slide, this plan is focused on more than just electric vehicles. We're also going to be looking at other types of alternative fuel, including hydrogen, which is a developing technology, especially relevant for freight. We're also looking at biodiesel that comes from oils. We'll also be looking at ethanol, and we're going to be looking at natural gas and propane gas, some of these other alternative fuels that can be used to power different vehicles and have been developing as well. Here's someone online. And if you want to go on to the next slide, just to give a quick overview of the project, as Jennifer Bertino-Tarrant said so well at the beginning, what we're really trying to do is position the county to embrace the future as it starts to develop alternative fuel infrastructure and support the residents and businesses of the county in adopting alternative fuel vehicles. So we want to do that by making sure we understand where we are. We want to make sure we understand the needs of the county residents. And then we want to develop strategies to be able to support alternative fuel growth. And then, achieve some of the benefits that come with that alternative fuel growth, such as reducing vehicular emissions. And so what we're hoping to get out of the project, if you want to go on to the next slide, we're hoping to be able to identify and evaluate how alternative fuels are going to be impacting the county based on where things are now, and where things are going to be going in the short and long term. And then we also want to make sure to provide resources to the residents and businesses of Will County, as well as to the public sector partners that we partner with. So we're going to be, we have developed an online dashboard. We're going to be developing that out through the course of the project. We'll be showing that off as part of this meeting, so you get to see the sort of first look at it. And then we want to be able to use this to form meaningful partnerships. That's one of the most important things that can come out of a planning process like this. You know, alternative fuels, such a variety of different industries, they touch a variety of different jurisdictions. We want to have these resources available and have these partnerships in place to be able to, you know, implement the strategies that we are coming up with. And so those strategies could be things related to developing policies and providing templates and processes for local governments to be able to support alternative fuel adoption. But we also want to make sure that we're preparing the county and the residents of the county for future funding opportunities. As we know, with some of the recent legislation that's been passed, there's, you know, a number of funding opportunities that are have been here and are going to be coming as we go into the future. And so we want this plan to be able to prepare the county to leverage that and to really take advantage so that when those funding opportunities come out, we can get investment here in the county and things that will support the implementation of alternative fuels. This is not happening alone. This is also happening along with a couple of other initiatives throughout the state as well as in the county. So one of the initiatives that we're closely partnering with the Illinois Department of Transportation with is their National Electric Vehicle Infrastructure Plan, NEVI for short. You might see that acronym pop up within different literature, within things that we're going to be putting out. That's a big source of funding for EVSI, the charging infrastructure, and we want to be coordinating with them because they have their own plan. We want to make sure that what Will County is doing in the jurisdictions within Will County is going to be consistent with what IDOT is doing. Another closely related initiative is the long-range transportation plan for the county. That is just getting kicked off. So we want to make sure to coordinate with that as well. We are going to be, you know, looking at near-term and long-term trends, and so we want to make sure to be coordinating with them on those long-term trends, so that this gets incorporated within the transportation plans of the county. And then this fits in with a number of other sort of green initiatives within the county exec's office, as well as with other departments throughout the county. So that can include some investments in things like expanding solar throughout the county, things that are bringing jobs to the county, including some of the private sector partnerships that have already been started, as well as, you know, some programs that are in place to encourage energy efficient infrastructure for commercial properties. That would include the CPACE program. Feel free to Google that after the meeting if you're a commercial property owner and you want some tax benefit or some low interest rates loans for energy efficient infrastructure. So what are we going to be doing as part of this project? So as I said, one of the things that we've started on here is just trying to understand where the county is now. Looking in particular at sort of current conditions, where what are the factors that are going to be influencing alternative fuel adoption as of now? What do those demographics look like? What does that built environment look like? Then we're going to be looking into the future. We're going to be looking at EV trends in terms of rate of adoption and what we kind of think about for the near and long term. And we're also going to be doing, you know, a focus on particular other alternative fuels. That's the biodiesel, these other compressed natural gas, or those sorts of fuels. So we do a special analysis of them as well. And then we're going to be using that to inform a needs assessment. That's where we're going to understand, like, what are the needs for investment, what are the needs for policies within the county, what is it that the county residents are going to be looking for. And as part of that, we're going to be taking a special look at racial equity and environmental justice to make sure that, you know, these are public investments. We want to make sure that they are those benefits are reaching disadvantaged communities. And we also want to make sure that the benefits of alternative fuel adoption, you know, help and mitigate the impacts of environmental issues like air quality or you know, the effects of diesel and things like that. And so once we do all this analysis, we'll be coming out with we'll be coming up with deployment strategies and recommendations for the county, as well as for the jurisdictions within the county. And then we'll put it all together into a big final plan that'll be coming out probably in the summer or so. So if you want to go on to the next slide, this shows off our timeline. And one thing to underscore here is that as part of all of these different tasks is something that is critical is, involving the residents and businesses and stakeholders of Will County. So you can see this little star of where we are now. We're kind of towards the end of doing this current conditions. That's what we'll be talking about in just a second. And we are then going to go into some of the other tasks, including looking at trends in alt fuels, the needs assessment, equity analysis, and so on. And so throughout all of that, we are going to be doing presentations like this that you're at today. We're going to be also conducting some workshops and some focus groups, some things with more targeted stakeholders, conducting some interviews to make sure that we're getting all the voices heard that need to be heard for this plan to set us up for success.
Thanks so much, Dan. And yeah, so as Dan mentioned, I'm going to be talking a little bit about the process that the team used to do this current condition assessment. I'll tell you a little bit about what I find, but mostly what we'll be doing here is directing you to an online resource. There is quite a lot of information available on the dashboard. And so rather than try to jam it all into a very compressed presentation here, we'd really encourage you all to explore the online resources and provide your feedback after you've had some time to look through it. But on the next slide, you'll see that our assessment of current conditions is really focused around an online dashboard. So I'll mostly describe what you can find on the dashboard in the next few slides. And like I say, it's a lot of information to absorb. We're hoping that this format allows you to review it at your leisure. We're also hoping that because we're using this interactive tool, it's a little bit more of a collaborative process, provides a lot of transparency around the data that we're using. We'll answer some questions that you might have about alternative fuels, but more than anything, really provide clarity around the factors that we're using as we look at Will County's needs and develop those strategies. So on the next page, you'll see the research questions that we have answered in our current condition assessment. We've looked at the background on alternative fuels and the factors that have driven that growth, developed a timeline where you can see the key milestones and legislation that's led to greater levels of adoption, information on vehicle adopters to frame out who currently has those vehicles, and help frame some recent efforts to ensure that we do reach beyond those adopters, paint a picture of Will County to illustrate key characteristics and demographics and the built environment, and then really just capture the current state of alt fuel adoption and infrastructure in the county. So on the next slide, you'll see the intro to that dashboard, including the factors that I just described. And then on the next slide, you'll see the Department of Energy has developed quite a lot of different statistics summarizing the current levels of adoption. And the data generally show that Illinois has come a long way in a very short period. Although you see here that battery electric vehicles are still just under 1% of all registered vehicles. Only 4 years ago, there were only 10,000 battery electric vehicles on the road, and that's almost doubled in just the last year. I think on the next slide, you'll start to see some of the federal momentum that we're really tracking. At the federal level, a lot of this is driven by the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act, which created that NEVI program that Dan mentioned earlier. That program aims to connect the country with a network of 500,000 electric chargers on nationally designated alt fuel corridors. There are 3 of those in Will County, and IDOT has planned 2 charging stations locally, one in Joliet on I-80 and another on I-55 near either Bolingbrook or Romeoville. And then on the state side, you'll see that Illinois is actively supporting decarbonization through a really notable piece of legislation that I'm sure everyone in this room is familiar with, the Climate and Equitable Jobs Act, or CEJA, that was passed 2 years ago. And that legislation not only set an objective to phase out fossil fuels in power generation, but also established important rebate programs to reduce the cost of purchasing an electric vehicle and created incentive programs to reduce the cost of installing charging infrastructure. And then let's see, one of the most kind of important ways that all fuels are likely to change in Will County that we also want to capture in this scan is through local manufacturing. So CEJA itself contains provisions to establish 13 workforce hubs. If selected, one of those could be located in Joliet. And we do also have to point out that there are two very large employers in Will County, Hyzon Motors, which would be the first fuel cell manufacturing plant in the country. That's located in Bolingbrook. And then the Lion Electric Company in Joliet, which is a manufacturer of all electric school buses. And ultimately, this momentum is very likely to persist, in part because Will County really has set such an objective to be friendly to alternative fuels, whether it's battery energy storage systems or microgrids. The county has recently changed zoning regulations to make it possible to add battery energy storage in unincorporated areas. And of course, many of you may have visited the largest rooftop solar array located in the Midwest at the local IKEA. So another big part of the dashboard is that there are quite a few maps that cover different factors that will be important for us to consider as we move forward in the needs assessment and strategy development. One factor that's particularly important is where adoption is proceeding more quickly. So on the map that you see on the screen here, you can see that adoption is concentrated toward the northern part of the county, which corresponds pretty well to where most of the charging infrastructure is located. And next, I'd like to run you through the actual dashboard. We've got a little video, so let's make sure that that gets started. Cool.
Is it going?
So,
You see it?
when you visit the page, you'll see the page background that we just covered. And as you scroll down, I'd encourage you to explore the page by clicking through different highlights. You can click off to the right to see some of the different things that we discussed here, including what's an alternative fuel vehicle, the level of adoption. And we'll keep updating this as we get more information. As you scroll down, you'll get a timeline of that alt fuel adoption, including some of the most important legislation and milestones. Below that, you'll see some of the factors that we're considering carefully, current adopters, population growth in the county, and then, of course, that population and demographics in the county. And one thing I will call attention to is that there is quite a lot of data that lives within this dashboard. So you'll see in the video here that it took a moment for the land use data to load. And if it's taking a second for you, I would just encourage you to be patient, give it a second, and then you should be able to see the map in a moment. So scrolling down, you'll also see some discussion about energy and emissions. We're thinking about substation capacity, areas to target, and then of course those major employers located in the county, along with the map that we just showed with the location of existing infrastructure and vehicle registrations. Okay. So on the next slide, perfect. What we're hoping that this group can do is review the dashboard. We want to make sure that the content is presented in a way that is helpful to understand what factors are being considered. Review the data. There is a lot of prioritization work happening both at a local, state, national level. Are there other factors that you think are very important to consider that you don't see mentioned there? And by the end of the week, we will release a survey that we hope that you all will complete that will let us know what your thoughts are on alternative fuels in Will County. And of course, just spread the word. Help us get information about the dashboard out to your communities, your constituencies, and the groups that you travel in. And then on the next slide, you'll get the project team's contact information and the location of the website. And with that, I'd like to just thank you again for your time.